You ever notice how some people walk into chaos and somehow make it stop? Not by screaming louder than everyone else, not by forcing solutions or demanding control. They just see what's broken and quietly know how to fix it. While everyone else is panicking, they're analyzing. While others are reacting, they're already 3 steps ahead. And what's strange is this doesn't make them popular. Doesn't make them the loudest voice in the room. Most people don't even realize what just happened until everything's already working again. Because fixing what others can't isn't about motivation or loud confidence. It's about something much quieter, something most people never develop. They see patterns where others see noise. That's the first thing you notice about people who fix what others can't. They don't look at surface problems. They don't panic at symptoms. They instinctively look deeper, searching for the root. While everyone else is treating the headache, they're diagnosing the stress disorder. While the team is arguing about workflow tools, they're spotting the communication breakdown that's actually causing the issue. This ability isn't magic. It's pattern recognition trained through silence. Most people talk their way through problems, hoping the solution appears while they're venting. But fixers, they watch, they absorb. They let the situation reveal itself. And in that silence, they start noticing things. The recurring mistake no one else flags. The bottleneck everyone talks around but never addresses. The emotional tension pretending to be a logistics issue. And here's what separates them from everyone else. They don't need credit for the insight. They just move. While others are still debating what's wrong, fixers are already testing a solution. Not because they're impulsive, because they've already mentally simulated 5 versions of failure and know which direction has the highest probability of working. Their brain doesn't get stuck in possibility paralysis. It defaults to action. Controlled, calculated, relentless action. And that makes people uncomfortable. Because most people want to talk about fixing things. These people just do it. No ceremony, no announcement. The problem existed. Now it doesn't. And somehow that quiet competence feels threatening to people who survive on appearing helpful. But there's a cost to this. One most people never talk about. When you become the person who fixes what others can't, you stop being seen as a person. You become a function, a resource. People don't ask how you're doing. They ask if you can look at something. Friendships start feeling transactional. Relationships begin to tilt. Because when you're always the one solving, you're never the one being seen. And the strangest part, you might not even notice it happening. Because fixing gives you purpose. It gives you value in a world that constantly asks what you're contributing. And for a long time, that feels like enough. Until one day, you realize you've been so focused on holding everything together for everyone else, you forgot to check if anything's holding you together. People who fix what others can't are often emotionally independent to a fault. They've learned not to rely on others for stability. Because every time something broke in their life, they were the ones who had to figure it out. So they stopped waiting for help. They stopped expecting someone to notice they were struggling. And over time, that self-reliance turned into something sharper, a kind of emotional detachment that looks like strength but sometimes hides exhaustion. They're not cold. They're just used to being the last line of defense. And when you're always that person, you learn to conserve emotional energy. You stop reacting to small chaos. You stop getting rattled by things that send others spiraling. Not because you're better, because you've seen worse. And you've learned that panic doesn't fix anything. So they operate differently. While most people are drowning in their feelings about a problem, fixers have already compartmentalized. They've separated what they can control from what they can't. What needs immediate attention from what can wait. What's actually broken from what just feels broken because someone's upset. That clarity doesn't come from being heartless. It comes from refusing to let emotion cloud judgment when something actually needs to be solved. And that's the part people misunderstand. They think fixers don't care, but it's the opposite. They care so much that they've trained themselves not to let emotion become the problem on top of the problem. But here's the trap most fixers fall into without realizing it. They start attracting broken situations, not because they seek them out, because people learn who to call when things fall apart. And once you become that person, it's almost impossible to stop being that person. Your inbox fills up with problems. Your time gets consumed by other people's crises. And somewhere along the way, your life starts revolving around keeping everyone else's world functional. And the worst part? You might even feel guilty for resenting it, because you're good at this. You've always been good at this. And if you stop, what happens to all the things that depend on you noticing what's wrong? That question keeps a lot of fixers trapped longer than they should be. Because walking away from something you know you could fix feels like betrayal, like you're choosing yourself over the people who need you. But what nobody tells you is this: you're not responsible for every problem you're capable of solving. Your ability to fix something doesn't mean you're obligated to. And the people who truly respect you will never treat your competence like a subscription service they're entitled to. The ones who do, they're not relationships, they're dependencies. And dependencies drain you until there's nothing left. The people who fix what others can't eventually realize something. Most people avoid their entire lives. Not every problem is yours to carry. Not every broken thing deserves your energy. And sometimes the most intelligent move is walking away from something you could fix, because fixing it would cost you more than it's worth. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. And it takes years to learn. Because when you've spent your whole life being the person who makes things work, stepping back feels like failure. Like you're abandoning your identity. But maybe the real growth isn't learning to fix more. Maybe it's learning when not to. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Some people don't want to be fixed. They want to be comforted in their dysfunction. They want someone to validate their chaos without actually challenging them to change it. And if you keep showing up for that, you're not fixing anything. You're enabling the exact pattern that keeps them stuck. Real fixers understand this eventually. They learn to recognize the difference between someone who's temporarily struggling and someone who's built their entire identity around being broken. And once you see that difference, you can't unsee it. You start pulling back from situations that will never improve no matter how much you invest. Not because you stopped caring, because you finally started caring about your own time, energy, and peace. And when you do that, something shifts. The people who are using you start fading out. The situations that were draining you stop having access. And for the first time in a long time, you're not firefighting. You're not in crisis mode. You're just existing without having to prove your worth by how much you can carry. And it feels strange at first, almost empty, because you've associated your value with your utility for so long. You forgot what it's like to just be. But that's when the real work starts. Not fixing what's outside, but sitting with what's inside. The parts of you that learn to survive by being indispensable. The parts that never felt safe unless you were solving something. The parts that still believe love is something you earn by being useful. That's the final fix. The one most fixers avoid because it's the hardest. Fixing the belief that you have to fix everything to matter. You don't. You never did. Your value isn't determined by how many problems you solve or how many people depend on you. It's just there, quiet, steady, regardless of what you do or don't do. And the moment you accept that, everything changes. You stop seeing broken things as your responsibility. You start seeing them as choices. And some of those choices, you just let them stay broken. Not because you can't fix them, because you finally understand that you were never supposed to.